Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this session on one of the most interesting issues, which is opening the Egyptian sky, whether it is an lost opportunity or a waste of resources. We have a distinguished cluster of people working in the economy, in tourism, and other sectors, and it is my pleasure to introduce the group. On my right-hand side sits Dr. Sameh. Who is the president of the Egyptian Civil Aviation Authority and was a former head of the holding Egyptian um, Egypt for Egypt Air, and Mr. Zayed, the chairman of IMCO Travel. He was the former head of the Egyptian Chambers for Tourism. We also have Mrs. Sahar Talaat Mostafa, who currently sits on the Tourism and Civil Aviation Committee and was a member of a large group of companies and in more than 10 companies, 10 different companies. Mr. Magid Hassan Al-Masri is currently the CEO of ECP Travel. He also held different position as the consultant, the head and the CEO of the Aviation Information Company. We also have General Abdel-Fattah Khatun, who was a military pilot and held different positions. He was a pilot for 3 years in Egypt Air, and also was working in the Egyptian Authority for Civil Aviation. Mr. Haitham Nassar, the general manager in Hilton Pyramids Golf, and also was a part of the Egyptian Chamber for Tourism in 2015-2016. We also have Ms. Ragab, who is a well-renowned professor in the Faculty of Economics and also was the former Minister for Tourism, Mr. Hani Tawfiq, who holds 2 degrees, doctoral degrees, and also one of the members of the board of directors on different exchange companies, exchange and bond companies, and in my view he is one of the well-renowned economists and investors. I'm going to start off the topic today. I am working in the industry. I am the head of the Federation of Egyptian Industries, and I have been representing this sector for 10 years, from 2007 until 2018. Over this period, we were submitted 2 studies on civil aviation. One of them was commissioned from 2002 to 2009, and these studies that I'm going to address are available in public domains, meaning that they are available in the competitiveness agencies. And then we had another study that covered the period of 2010 up until 2013. And this covers domestic and international aviation. As part of my intro, I loved would love to share the highlights from 2010 to 2013. And once more, I would like to reiterate that it is available on the website of the competitiveness agency. There is no need to talk about the benefit that is incurred on different levels and on different sectors. This has been extensively covered before, but let me say that over that period of the study, the Egyptian market had only 11 airliners, including the airline Express, EMC, the Nile company, Nisma, Cairo for air transport, Alexandria for air transport, and Midwest. These were 11 of the companies that were operating, and as you can see, Egypt Air had the lion's share of them. But now I would like to jump to the conclusions of the study and share it with you, because there are some technical points, and maybe the members on the audience can elaborate further on these points. And definitely there have been recent developments regarding these points. The recommendations of the study conducted over the period 2010 to 2013, first to modify the legislative framework, and the civil aviation was advised to change the hindrance, including Article 112 of civil aviation, which requires a license from and also to require the Civil Aviation Authority to do more coordination and to develop a larger plan. Secondly, to reconsider the bilateral agreements in order to expand the engagement of private sector, which will open the opportunity for more companies, and to announce vacancies, and also to start an auction, and to reconsider the privileges given to Egypt Air, and to treat other companies on an equal footing. As for the privileges given to Egypt Air, they should be reduced in terms of the fuel and the subsidized fuel that Egypt Air gets based on this agreement. And given the importance of the operational cost of the fuel, which makes up 30% of the operational cost, and also all Egyptian companies should be treated on an equal footing. When it comes to Egypt Air's membership on different committees, as contained in Article 112 of the executive regulations of the civil aviation law, so that the committee, one of these committees have conflicting interests and may have an impact on the impartiality of the committee. Also, there is another committee that looks into the application of the establishments of the aviation, and which has Egypt Air as part of its member. The special committee held by the aviation minister also includes the chairman of Egypt Air. This committee issues decisions that impact the whole movement of civil aviation, and as such, these decisions could run counter to the interest of other companies. All of these measures were taken in order to make sure that there are no preferential treatment. Also, one of the recommendation, the amendment of an article under civil aviation regulation that runs counter into with the interest of other companies. Some might say that there is a greater interest to the consumers with the lack of competition. The competitiveness law includes Article 9, which provides that the agency, based on the request of the stakeholders, can take certain measures that serve the interest of the consumer and which might not impact the competitiveness. These are some of the points that I wanted to review. This report was issued in 2014, and it is on the website from 2014 until 2018. I'm pretty sure that there are lots of development that have emerged. And definitely the speakers on the stage are going to share their knowledge with us. On this point, I would like to call on Mr. Pilot Sameh Al-Hefny, the head of the Civil Aviation Authority in Egypt, to give his speech. Good morning. It is my pleasure and the pleasure of this Egyptian Civil Aviation to share this podium with this host of expertise. I'm just going to give you a background information on the Egyptian Aviation Authority. This agency is mandated to protect the interest of the state. So we take care when we enter into agreements not to compromise public funds. I'm talking here about civil aviation regulations and not laws. We represent the state in front of all the international organizations, Open Skies. I do not want to say that it is usually said for ulterior motives. Are we protecting tourism? The aviation sector provided more than any other sector and served tourism more than any other sector. Actually, the Aviation Authority impacted its own companies for the sake of tourism. All of our coastal airports or whether they be in Marsa Alam, Orgada, Sharm el-Sheikh, we open them to any operator. that came at the cost of the exclusion and the exit of Egypt Air and other national carriers from the market, and also resulted in the introduction of private or Egyptian private sector and provision of charter flights from the different airports. Not only that, but when we found that the Egyptian staff, for the Egyptian staff interest, we have to move out from our domestic airports. We allowed to move from our other airports, our staff from other airports to man the rest of the airports across the nation. We have been listening to the word about to the word pivotal airport. There is no such thing that there is a pivotal airport without an air carrier. The to have a pivotal airport, there must be a very strong, well-established air carrier. If there is no if well-established air carrier, there no airport will be able to perform and to serve its purposes. But there must be private companies to operate these airports. So having that pivotal airports working with the national carriers helped Egypt Air to enter into Star Alliance. We work all under one roof for the best interest of the passengers. So how could we make it up for tourism? Cairo Airport has become open to all charter flights. We have tried launching charter flights for our own private companies or for foreign carriers. And we said that you can move or pick up foreigners, European foreigners, to Cairo Airport. We also granted other rights, a right that was not matched by any other company. Now, Thomson Thomas or any travel company can pick up tourists from Germany to Igada, for example. They can work, they can have these cabotage aviation rights. So the Egypt's current situation from a tourism point of view is really on good standing. So how many tourists come only to visit Cairo and refuse to come on a charter operation? However, we have never been able to receive an answer to this question, and I thought that if we have a presentation, these figures might come up. In conclusions, open skies is a term that is being thrown around, while in application you'll find that the United States has recently restricted air transport. Europe also restricted allowing companies out of fear from the huge corporations, because when you look at these corporations or these alliances, I'm not going to mention specific companies, but Gulf carriers, for example, or Turkish Airlines. When did these companies opt for open skies? When they were given huge support that that increased their fleet to 400 carriers, because there were huge investments and they were given a lot of support, and they wanted to have revenue on these investments. But Cairo Airport, just to settle this confusion, Cairo Airport is not closed. Sorry, it's not about closing is that we wanted to have Cairo airport as a pivotal airport, and in order to have this pivotal airport, there must be two huge companies. Heathrow is a hot airport. Of course, they expanded it a little bit based on the European agreements in order to assist the other small nations within the European Union. That's why they wanted to allow British Airways to go to Slovenia or to any other companies based on the principal base of operation, to have 3 or 20 airplanes, which grants the right of operations. And I hope that the discussion can answer a lot of answers that we, as Civil Aviation Authority, have been looking for, because our purpose is the best interest of the state and then the best interest of our national companies, by which I do not mean Egypt Air, not exclusively, but we have 13 or 14 national carriers, and the study was on domestic flights. The agency allowed for any companies to come and work domestically. A case in point is Nile company. But we have our own requirements. These companies sometimes have a scheduled operation, but for some reasons they might interrupt the schedules. So we have requirements. They cannot do that. We welcome any private operators, national operators, but on the condition of working according to the schedule operations. We allow any company that work on scheduled operation to work from Cairo to any other point. I would like to reiterate my thanks and would like to extend the thanks to everyone on the stage and for hosting us.
I would like to thank Captain Sameh Hefny for his presentation and for explaining the role of the Civil Aviation Authority and for introducing the latest updates. Now, I'd like to give the floor to Ms. Sahar Talaat Mostafa, Head of the Tourism and Civil Aviation Committee at the Egyptian Parliament. Good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased and honored to be here among you today in this August assembly, whether here I'm referring to the panelists or to the attendees. Thank you so much. I will pick up from where you left off. I just want to clarify something. Civil aviation facility is a public one, and the establishment and the regulation of this public facilities shouldn't be part of the parliament work. It's for the implementing agencies as per the constitution. We have a regulatory or a supervisory role through a claim or a fact finding mission. But as you mentioned, regulations and bylaws should be set by the implementing partners and not the parliament. Our role is evident in the agreements the government signed and ratify. We study these agreements in certain ad hoc committees. This committee brings together people from the implementing agencies, and we pose certain questions on certain items, and if the parliament sees that this agreement will benefit the state, then these agreements will be approved. Also, in the parliament, we have a role to play when it comes to aviation and tourism, because in all the conferences we attend abroad, aviation and tourism are a topic or topics to be frequently discussed. So, for example, through the diplomats at the parliament, we held many meetings with the speaker of the Russian parliament. We also visited Cyprus to regain the air traffic between Egypt and Cyprus, since we're studying a number of agreements. And at the beginning of the coming session, we will coordinate with the implementing agency on these agreements under study. Also, we had an agreement between Ireland and Egypt, and Ireland signed last week when we were there a week ago, and it's our turn to sign these, and we will receive these documents in the upcoming parliamentarian session, and if it benefits the country, we will definitely approve it. But the question that should be posed here is, did Egypt benefit from applying open skies policies? Figures cannot lie, so I would ask you, doctor, to refer to the numbers, and I want to seize this opportunity to thank the center for their close follow-up, and personally I, along with my colleagues at the parliament, are keen to attend the symposiums you hold at the center, because it really helps us in many of the studies we conduct. So I just want the center to conduct an accurate study on the numbers of tourists coming on scheduled airlines, on charter airlines. We need to have accurate data upon which we can decide whether we are benefiting or rather wasting our country's resources. So we wanted to have a detailed quantitative study upon which we can decide. And I hope you can hold another symposium in the near future, so that we can compare these results, and then we will be able to decide. And I want to seize this opportunity and to say that the Ministry of Aviation, or the Civil Aviation Authority, exert much effort. And as you know, we are expanding a number of airports. And of course, there are some downsides, some negative aspects, and in the parliament, we hold periodical meetings to highlight some negative aspects, and we ask them to report back to us, and we follow up on the conclusions of these meetings. And of course, any one is welcome to send any complaints to the committee at the parliament, and then we ask the officials to appear before the committee to respond to these complaints. So that is briefly our role, and I look forward to continuing this fruitful discussion. Thank you so much, Ms. Sahar, for clarifying the role of the parliament in these vital sectors